Hello everybody, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening depending on where you are in this amazing world. My name is Donovan Jolly, and welcome everybody once again for another amazing video of DIY investing. For today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you guys 3 fractals from prior market cycles throughout the last 10 to 20 years that are going to share with you guys what I think is happening inside of this recent Bitcoin correction. This has been the most volatile Bitcoin correction that we've ever seen based off of the sheer amount of money that is inside this market compared to the last cycles. We have never seen anything quite like this. I want to talk to you guys about what I think is happening inside this correction by talking about some prior market cycles, explain why I still believe we're going to get one more final rally to close out the end of this cycle. And then I also wanted to cover some of the 4-year cycle timeframes, talk about what I think happens now that we're past the end of the year. Now that we're into year 2022, it's really important that we cover the 4-year cycle. We analyze, is this cycle invalidated? Are we following something completely brand new? And how do we go about planning for the best and most profitable way long term? If you're new and just finding this channel, always remember to do me a favor by leaving a like, comment, and subscribing to this channel. Make sure you guys hit that notification bell so you guys don't miss out on any of these amazing videos. If you want to join the Discord server, follow my community, or you guys would also like to download my free ebook and Beginner's Guide to Crypto, links are going to be provided for you in the description. Go ahead and check it out. And with that being said, guys, let's jump right into this amazing video today. Alrighty guys, so here we are for today's video, and I'm really excited to share with you this video because it's been a little while since my last update. Many of you guys are probably wondering where I've been, why have I been disappearing. A lot of people have been saying it's because of the fact we're past the end of the year and we haven't had the blow off top, and so I've gone ahead and sold everything and disappeared. That's not the truth. I actually haven't sold and taken profits on my crypto. Still holding, still expecting that we're going to have one more rally. I've just been taking a break mainly because there's not a whole lot to talk about. When you're in these periods of correction inside the market, it's the most trying times because the market's really not going and giving you clear direction one way or another. And that's kind of the point of consolidation. It's designed to chop you out. It's designed to ultimately give money, consolidate money back into the smart hands, the people that are willing to play the long term. And that's kind of where the money you see in these choppy periods, that's where it ends up leaving retail money and flowing back into the wallets of whales. And this is exactly the same thing that we're seeing today. You know, I've seen a lot of people that are starting to call for the bear market. I've seen this on Twitter. It's interesting to me how it was the same people that were super bullish, in my opinion, some of the most bullish people inside of this rally on the upside, and even on this most recent one. We saw a lot of altcoins rally hard in this most recent rise. During these 2 rallies, I saw some of these people specifically that were the most bullish. They were always, slandering any bears that were out there. And then what we started to see is once the market corrected, once the coins that they had invested in were going down, you started to see the inverse effect. Whereas they were so bullish before, now that their coins are going down, they're actually even more bearish. And they're starting to call for bear markets. They're starting to tell their followers that this is what they're going to be expecting moving forward. And I think it's interesting because this is very similar to what you're going to see every cycle. Now, yeah, the time frames have changed. We are definitely extending later than I would have thought. And that's kind of what I was updating you guys with. I still think that we're following pretty close to the 4-year cycle timeframes, and that's why I still believe that we will get a cycle top, and I don't think it's going to be drastically longer than prior cycles, but there is proof showing that this cycle is longer than the prior ones. And so this doesn't really change my big picture plan. Yes, it changes the point that I was trying to make where I was always talking about taking profits at the end of the year. But when it comes to truly taking profits, it's not as easy as to say, there's this one form of analysis that I have that I'm going to say, this is the one that I'm going to go off of the most. And even with me going off of the most, even though I have this one form of analysis, you don't always make every single trading or investment decision off of one key indicator. And that's kind of the point of why you spend time in investing in the market, why you learn, why you gather more resources so that you can basically come at the market from multiple directions. The 4-year cycle timeframes were always my key, my philosophy, my foundation of my portfolio. And so I'm still following with that. But when it comes to taking profits, one of the things I did tell you guys, and this was, 3 months ago at this point, when we were all the way back down in here and we first started breaking out, what I told you guys was if we're at a point come the end of the year where Bitcoin just simply isn't what I would consider parabolic, we're just kind of right around those all-time high levels, I told you guys that I wouldn't be selling, and I don't think that you guys should either. And so a lot of what this video is going to do is kind of summarize some of my thoughts, what has happened, what has maybe changed, or what I can maybe coach some of you guys with that have had questions about some of these thoughts. Now, first things first, with this consolidation, once again, I expect a blow off top. And with that, I want to talk to you guys about these three patterns specifically, because in my opinion, these are going to help to kind of give you guys an idea of how some of these prior corrections have worked in previous market cycles. And, you know, how it would have been during those periods compared to what we're seeing today. Now, the first one I wanted to go off of is actually the S&P 500. This is the top 500 stocks inside of the market, and this is the average of all of those. Now, this was the actual 2008 financial collapse, was this correction right here, right? And so this was a little bit earlier than that, and we actually started a bigger correction that lasted about a decade. Now, we had this big run up, and I didn't drag all of the price history, but this was our first major run up from accumulation, right? This was pretty much the beginning of the trend all the way down here. And we make our first big parabolic rally. And this is where you get the midway cycle sell-off. This is the big correction that takes place midway towards the end of the cycle. Midway towards the end, right? So it's closer towards the end, but once again, close towards that middle point as well. So during this period of time, we actually made a very similar consolidation. We had this upper resistance here, and then we had this lower resistance here. And what I thought was interesting, comparing this actually back to the 2008 collapse, was we actually had our first sell-off, we found support, we rallied back up to those all-time highs, very similar to what Bitcoin's doing today. And then in 2008, we got that big sell-off. And what's interesting to me is we came all the way back down to support, but we actually went slightly below. We had this little wick period where we had this capitulation event that took us below support of those previous lows. And this was this would have been a way scarier time than we're in today, because this is not only, you know, just crypto, but this is the entire market back here. And crypto didn't exist all the way back here in the day. But anyways, the point I'm trying to make here is this would have been way scarier, way more trying period over here than what we're comparing and looking at today in crypto. But what's interesting to me is how we still follow roughly that same sort of corrective structure. Now, if we draw a horizontal resistance line with Bitcoin, and then we draw a support line as well down here at 29,000, we see that we've seen roughly the same sort of consolidation. The only difference is Bitcoin here is pretty much retesting a prior resistance level. This is the resistance level that I personally want us to hold, right? This is now acting as support. We do see that we are getting some buy pressure stepping in here. We want to see this level hold. In my opinion, it's going to show a lot more weakness if Bitcoin sells below this level and then actually does come to do something like this, or even, you know, one of these. This is the NASDAQ over here in the second fractal. And what's interesting to me is just, once again, how similar it actually is. So if we draw a resistance up here, the all-time high of this chart, if I were to draw this, it would actually look something like this. It would have one more peak, and then it would have this run up like this, right? That is what the chart would look like, but I only took it from this point so it would actually fit a little bit better. Now, it followed the same thing, because this is the same time period for the S&P 500 as it is for the NASDAQ. The only difference here is the NASDAQ itself, it didn't actually sell below the support. We went all the way back down, retested our support level, held above that, and then we immediately made our run back up, breaking all-time highs, going into new all-time highs, right? It's very much the same as what we're seeing here today with Bitcoin. And so these are two cycles that come in markets where the average person would say is less volatile in crypto, right? Well, this was a pretty big swing. This is a massive correction that takes place. Same with this one over here. In Bitcoin, we're actually holding support a little bit better. Not only did we rally upwards a little bit better, we made a new all-time high, but even in this sell-off, I think we're going to hold support above this $40,000 level. That's my opinion. You know, we could technically wick below that temporarily, but overall, I do think that we're going to make a higher high in here. Even if it ends up stitching in something like this, where we do have a massive collapse in through here, a big capitulation event, it is possible, and I'm not going to count that off. Anything is possible, especially in crypto. Now, another crypto that I did want to talk about, this is comparing Bitcoin to Chainlink, and this was a chart that Chainlink did in the last cycle. In fact, I'm going to share it with you guys right now so that you can actually make the same comparison today. Look how similar the Chainlink chart all the way back in early 2020 looks to what we're seeing today inside of Bitcoin. And I wanted to make this comparison because we're seeing the same thing being repeated in the cycle. This was our breakout. This was our first breakout into the new market cycle, right? This is the same thing that happened today with Bitcoin. And I did want to talk to you guys about this because it's super, super similar. Even the corrective cycle that we have seen thus far. Inside of our first breakout into Chainlink, after we made a new all-time high, we ended up having this corrective cycle that lasted about a year. This was almost exactly a year duration from the high until the point over here in which we left the all-time high. And so we're very similar inside of Bitcoin. It's not quite as long for Bitcoin, but we're getting up there. And if we consolidated sideways for, another 30 to 60 days, we would be at that same sort of time frame over here. What's interesting to me here is we made roughly the same pattern. Now, after we ended up making our cycle high, we ended up making our first major correction, right? This is what happened inside of Chainlink. This is what happened inside of Bitcoin. We sell off. We find our support, and then we rally to the upside once again. Now, Chainlink makes a little bit of a different consolidation. Chainlink rallies up, hits resistance, and then we pretty much fully retrace that move, make this little double bottom type formation. Whereas Bitcoin rallies up, and then it actually makes a higher high. And then that's what takes us into our next impulse. This is the final retest of those all-time highs. Same thing that we did over here. And that's what creates our final sell-off. Now, this was, once again, in my opinion, enhanced because this was the COVID crash. This was 2020. This was actually why we saw that big candle that came in here for Chainlink. It was that added emphasis of everybody's fear with Corona, right? And so that's why we saw this type of a correction. I don't think we would have came all the way back down to the base support in Chainlink if we didn't have that added emphasis on the market. In my opinion, would have held support a little bit higher, but it's still the same symmetry, right? It's still following the same corrective type of pattern. And what ended up happening for Chainlink, was obviously a big rally on the upside. I don't think that Bitcoin's going to go for, a whole year of upside. I don't think we'd end up topping at the end of 2022. I guess it's possible at this point. We have to consider anything. But I'm still fully expecting that what we have coming for us is just one more final move in this cycle. The same sort of thing that we've seen up to this point in these charts. What we saw here inside of Chainlink, it would look like this. Now, Chainlink kept going, obviously, but in my opinion, this would be the cycle top for Bitcoin. What we see after this point for Bitcoin will be the cycle top. And so that's kind of what I'm watching for with the entire market right now. I know a lot of people are really fearful. It's really easy to get caught up inside of the market corrections, especially one like this. But I remember seeing very similar emotions being played out all the way back in the summer of 2017 before we did get that final run back up. There was a lot of people that started getting chopped up when Bitcoin was, selling off. This cycle is definitely different, don't get me wrong. We maintained higher highs and higher lows throughout the entirety of 2017. Even though we haven't broke that market structure yet, this cycle that we're in right now, this is a big correction that we're in. We didn't see anything like this in 2017, right? This is a lot more trying period for most people, especially people that got in later in 2017 that really didn't have the opportunity to see what it was like getting in at the very, very low. I happen to be fortunate enough to get into Bitcoin at the very beginning of 2016, back when Bitcoin was worth $400. That's when I got into crypto. So I had the opportunity to see the whole bull cycle develop. Now, I didn't know what I was doing, and I wasn't able to capitalize into the 2017 cycle because I ended up making a lot of mistakes in the bear market. But regardless of that, what I was able to see was invaluable knowledge that is really helping me inside of this cycle today. Even though the time frames have been invalidated to some extent, I called for the end of the year cycle top. Now, even though with the cycle top at the end of the year, let's get into the time frames while we're at this talking point right now. Let's just talk about Bitcoin today as we wrap up this video. And let's get into these cycle timeframes a little bit, because I do want to talk about this, because I don't think that it's going to be vastly different than what we've seen up to this point. And I'll explain some of my thoughts right here. So first things first, when we did talk about everything, we were looking for the end of the year as our cycle top, right? So end of the year was our time frame. We're obviously past that point. So if we come all the way back and look at prior cycle tops inside of Bitcoin, and then we look at our cycle bottoms as well, we do have a very easy to identify pattern. And this is why I still think it's going to follow to some extent in this current cycle that we're in, even though we are going and extending a little bit later into 2022. So at the end of the day, when the cycle was at its earliest point, when we were all the way back down in here, I was always looking for the end of the year as my big point of which we needed to be ready to take profits, right? And so that never was a decision that I was going to for sure take every single bit of my profits at the end of the year, because like I updated you guys with, over the last 3 months, if we ended up getting what we're seeing today, where Bitcoin ends up coming close to those all-time highs, but we never actually break them and go into a move like this, or even a move like this, like I've been expecting, I told you guys that I wasn't going to be looking to sell. And so this is the same thing that I'm following today. I have not sold anything yet. I don't expect you guys to sell anything yet. I think it would be idiotic of you guys to sell stuff right now. If you didn't sell when Bitcoin was at its highest point or relatively close to those all-time highs, I don't think you should be selling now that we're pretty much at a major support level, or what I, in my opinion, view as a support level. And so I still think that we're going to be following suit. The only difference is we are going to be going later into 2022. We are going to be going into the Q1 at least. We could even go later into Q1, maybe the beginning of Q2. It's hard to say because we are at this point where we don't really know exactly what to expect. The big thing that I do want you guys to understand is we do have this trend that has developed where, historically speaking, we have topped pretty close to the end of the year. Now, in 2013, we topped at the end of November. In 2017, it was middle of December. And so there is a pattern that's developing that's showing us that each cycle top is getting a little bit it's lengthening in size. This one was only 2 weeks in duration. We're already past that point in today's cycle. And so it's looking like, this thing could easily extend into late February as it stands right now. We need to see where the bottom takes place, because that's the big thing to pay attention for here, guys. We're in this big period of consolidation. We're in this massive consolidation type of move. No matter what way you want to draw it, whether this is a type of triangle, in my opinion, it is a triangle. So the big thing that we're looking for, let's get rid of these lines real quick, and let's just simply talk about the market structure itself, because we're going to look at it from an Elliott wave perspective. Now, inside of Elliott wave, we have our wave 1. This is the beginning of the impulse. Our 2 wave is the correction. Wave 3 is our next impulse, oftentimes the biggest, the most volatile, most money's made inside of that move. Our 4 wave correction is the point I'm trying to make here. Now, inside of wave 4, we have this really common event where 4 wave corrections can create triangle type consolidations. Triangle type consolidations, in my opinion, are going to be some of the most trying, because it's really easy to get chopped up. We saw the same thing play out in 2013. This is a very similar consolidation to a triangle, and this is what happens inside of wave 4. You're going to see these types of consolidations before it precedes the blow off top of that cycle. That's what we saw in 2013. Now, in this cycle, we're obviously extending way later than that. We had already seen a cycle top in that cycle. We have not seen that yet. And so we're seeing a little bit of a different type of consolidation. In my opinion, it wholly depends on where we find the support low. But we could easily see, like I've shown with these charts here, we could see an attempt at falling all the way back down to this 30K support and then having a move like this. That isn't even out of the realm of possibility. I don't think it's going to happen. I find it more likely we're going to find support roughly where we're at, around this 40K level. That's kind of what I've been thinking. I do think we could go slightly below that. I talked about that in my last video. I talked about the potential of 34,500 if we do get a deeper capitulation event. But regardless of that, I don't think it solely matters on exactly what price it goes to. The big thing to understand here is we've only completed wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, and we're still inside of wave 4. Whatever point we find support, in my opinion, will be the bottom, and that's where we break out from this and go to our final rally of the bull run. And that's what's going to be wave 5, right? We have still yet to complete wave 5 in this cycle, and the LA waves in this cycle are the easiest to identify comparing them to any other cycle up to this point. We still need this final wave 5 structure. And so if you're calling for a bear market already, it's just a little bit too premature. We haven't had a final 5 wave. And if you think that Bitcoin's going to have this magical parabolic rally for the first time with institutions, and not complete a 5-wave for the first time in history. I just think that that's a lot of wishful thinking. So I just wanted to share with you guys these thoughts, this perspective on Bitcoin, give you guys some analysis to work with, what I think is going to be happening. Yes, we're going to be extending later into 2022. I am still going to be holding. I think you guys should still be holding personally. I just think that's the smartest thing until we do get this final rally. A lot of people are starting to doubt the rally, and that gives me more confidence that it's ultimately going to happen. So sticking to the analysis, guys, if I don't upload or if you guys see me taking a little bit of a break, it's just simply because during these periods of consolidation, people are really angry. Not much is happening inside the market. There really isn't a lot changing. I know what my analysis is and nothing is changing for me. So I'm not going to sit here and just keep talking about the same thing over and over. I'm going to wait until my confirmation is either proven right or wrong. In my opinion, we're going to break out. That's what I'm watching for. If you guys found value in this video, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell. If you guys want to join the Discord server or download my free ebook, links are in the description. You guys can also sign up for my VIP group. If you guys want to know the trades that I'm taking, follow my analysis, all of that fun stuff is inside the Discord as well. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And with that being said, I will catch you in the next one. As always, peace out.